Hello, everybody, and welcome to. I guess this is a bit of a new format. I figured I'd do a story time, and for those watching, this is going to be on the church side of things, not the gaming side of things. So heads up. So yeah, I thought I would do a bit of a story time on uh, how youth ministry has been so far in the first half of 2020. Now, first off, I'd like to start with the scripture, Proverbs 16:9, that says, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." And so I think that's important because this year started off completely different. First things first, I had been a youth leader in the past. In fact, I was involved in children's and youth ministries for about 7 years total. And then in 2015, I actually decided to step down. These photos were from 2015, I believe, or prior. That was me doing the Sabbath school discussion, and here I am leading out in a youth service. Also, me leading out in youth service along with Brother Joe Alexis de la Cruz. So this was all in the past, and this pretty much led to 2015, which was actually 2014. I said it was going to be my last year, but then the church decided to get one more year out of me, in which I was supposed to train my replacement. Now, I gave them that last year, but none of the replacements that I trained ended up. I mean, none of the youth that I trained ended up replacing me, at least not as youth leaders. And so for the next 4 years, it switched hands a few times, and I don't want to talk negatively about any of the prior leaders, but I don't. I feel that the youth ministry in our church died. Now that may or may not have been the fault of the leaders, right? There's many factors that go in youth ministry, and the youth are complicated. I guess that's the whole thing. So regardless as to the why, the youth ministry in our church was dying and like really bad condition, and so they asked me to return for a leader in 2020, and when I said in 2015 that it had left a sour taste in my mouth being a youth ministries leader, I was serious and I really didn't want to come back, but the Lord has a way of dragging me back into the kind of work that I never want to do. I think this may be too close. Anywho, so then that led to me planning what I wanted to do this year, and so I decided I wanted to change everything because, like I said, the youth ministry was dying. So whatever we were doing wasn't working. So we had to change everything. So either we would go big or we would go home. So I came up with a few changes. One of the changes I decided was that I was gonna change the order or the schedule for youth gatherings, youth meetings, youth services. We used to have one every Friday night, and young people would never show up. And when they did show up, it was because their parents forced them. So I figured if they don't want to physically show up, let's sort of minimize that. Let's make the gatherings, the youth gatherings, once a month, and then let's move the youth ministry elsewhere. Now, I don't want to say that this would have worked specifically because, as you guys can probably tell, 2020 was a weird year. And so none of these things really got to be put into practice, but that was the plan. The plan was to meet once a month and do and just fellowship together. So the day that I chose for to be our first meeting in January, there was a little problem. The date got double booked by the church. The church ended up planning this other event in which they invited tons of guest speakers, right? It was going to be this big event, and it wasn't the same day that I had picked. Now, there was a bit of confusion since youth services, I should say, typically met on Friday. I guess they didn't realize that I was going to change it, or they did realize, but it didn't click in their head. Either way, by the time both my department, my youth ministry department, and church that was planning the event, we realized that we had something going on the same date. It was kind of too late because they couldn't uninvite everybody, and so I decided to just take a different day because I could have fought it, but was that really the right thing to do? Probably not. Either way, I felt really upset about that, and I decided to take the date of the week earlier, so it would just be a week earlier. No problem, right? Well, it turns out that that week that we were supposed to have our first youth service or youth gathering, there was a blizzard, and nobody was able to show up. Like literally, nobody was able to show up. Huge blizzard, probably the only blizzard of the winter of 2020. Yeah, we had a very weak snow season this year. So just like that, that event didn't happen. I was still at the church hoping, just in case someone showed up. No one showed up. Then the following week, which was the event that the church had made, there was a warning for a blizzard that never showed up. So that big event with all the guest speakers also got canceled, and there was no snow. So that was the start of 2020, and I was very upset. I was like discouraged. I was just like, am I just wasting my time here? Is this just a sign from above of what is to be expected for the rest of the year? Either way, we I got out of that feeling, and we started planning for February. Which yeah, finally in February. Oh wait, before we get to February, one of the reasons I wanted to meet in January because I was planning a special event for February 2nd, which was a certain big football game that I can't mention by name because I will have to then pay money. But I think we all know which big game happens in football in February. So I wanted to have an event for the youth and pretty much everyone else in the church who wanted to show up, that they could come to the church and watch the football game together, as long as we were respectful and all this stuff. I think it was a pretty plan. A lot of churches do this. It's called fellowship evangelism, and you can do that. It's legal as long as you follow certain rules provided by the league of said football game. Um, but due to several things that were happening, it was unable, and it was probably the best. I don't think it would have been appropriate to have our first youth gathering be a football game. But also, our church was doing renovations, and there were just so many issues and complications that I just decided to cancel the big game watching party. So that brings us to the actual youth service in February, and we actually pulled it off. As you can see, me sitting there with a beard and messy hair, and yes, that is me. That is the same. I'm in the blue flannel, not in the orange sweater. So yeah, that was me. And when we got there, we met, and I got there early. Nobody else got there early. Everybody else got there when it was right about to start. So we had to like hurry to get everything done. And what ends up happening is uh, we had a technical difficulties. So we started about 40 minutes late. Still, we were able to get everything done, and it was okay. We had a good turnout, we had refreshments, and we had a good discussion about current events, like the certain pandemic that was coming, but we had no idea. No idea. And that's kind of the funny thing, right? During the discussion of current events, the COVID was the most spoken about topic. And rightfully so. It was on the horizon, and we all had our concerns, but little did we know that it was going to mess our plans in such a huge way. I had a lot of things planned, not just youth gatherings. We were planning on having cooking classes, exercise sessions, especially now in the summer. We were going to go bike riding around the town. We were going to take a tour of all the historic places in town. There's even a museum that talks about the history. So I had like all these cool plans, right? I mentioned cooking, right? Yeah, I mentioned cooking. So all of these things that actually involved us being together and touching well, not one another, but touching same equipment and whatnot. And I really thought it was going to be a very unique, interesting year, but it got canceled. Romans 8:28 says, we know that all things work together for good to those who love God, to those who are called according to His purpose. And that was one of those things, right? At first, I was discouraged, but then it's like there is something here. You see, part of what I had planned this year was to focus a lot on social media, and I started the year with the um, Facebook page. I was updating our youth ministries page, which we've had for a few years, and for the most part, didn't get updated. So I had to get permissions to use the page again. And it was fine, but it wasn't really getting a lot of attention. But I realized that my personal Instagram was getting a lot of attention, so I figured, well, the young people must be on Instagram. right? So then I ended up doing that during the pandemic, the first few weeks of the pandemic. I was realizing that I think Instagram is where we should focus. And sure enough, there has been a lot more traffic on the Instagram page than on the Facebook page. And I also made a Discord page. So if you guys want to join, follow any of these, I should put the link in the description below. And it's funny because I knew I wanted to do something with social media this year, and due to the pandemic, it seems that social media is all anybody is doing nowadays. So yeah, it's funny. I had an inkling that there was something that I needed to focus on with social media. Never realized it was going to be that thorough. So the pandemic hits, and I realize now that just like I had lost the youth service for January, I may lose the youth service for March, and I didn't want to do that because we literally only had one youth service. So it was March 13 when everything started closing here in Connecticut, and I just didn't know what to do. So this resource got sent to me. I don't remember by who, but there's a YouTube channel called Peoria Adventists, and they have a short series called COVID Chronicles, live streaming 101 for small churches. I recommend that you guys watch that because in it he goes through everything that I would need to live stream a church service from home. And I realized that at the backup plan, since we most likely were not going to be able to meet at church for the youth service in March, I could at the very least stream said youth service. So I watch all of his videos and I realized a few things. One, I needed to download and learn how to use OBS, and two, I needed to buy more equipment. So I went on Amazon and I ordered the three things you see below: a new webcam, a capture card, and a not a wireless headset, a headset, wired headset. All of this was to help stream. Now, due to the pandemic, these things got here very, very late. It took forever for these items to arrive, but they eventually did. I'm actually using two right now. Here's the headset, and the camera that is recording me is the one you see in the picture. So yes, I knew now that I have to live stream and broadcast the service, but I didn't know how or which platform. And that was kind of funny because I had very little time to figure it. I had less than 2 weeks to figure out and learn how to do all of this. And it seems that even though everything was closed, everyone was busy. And what I mean by busy is most of us were focusing on how to survive the pandemic at home. So I didn't exactly have a lot of people to run to or bounce ideas off. So what I started doing was just talking to this friend of mine, and she's not even Adventist, she's not Christian, she doesn't live in the United States, but she understood my pain as a friend. And so whenever I broadcast anywhere across many platforms, I would call her. She would sit down, uh, observe, and then tell me pointers of what was working, what wasn't working, if I was having streaming issues. And that helped specifically with OBS because I didn't know how to use it or how to set everything. So it was just crazy that one person holding me down through all of this was one of my non-Christian friends who was helping me set up for a Christian youth service. So I'm very helpful. I mean, I'm very grateful for her. Ziegler, if you're watching, thank you so much. You saved my bacon, my vegan bacon. Back then, and it was appreciated. So one of the platforms that I tried using was Instagram Live, which wasn't good because back then, after the live was over, it would only be recorded for 24 hours and then it will be removed. Now, if you do make a live, you can download it and you can save it forever. But you couldn't do that back then, so that was kind of annoying. I actually made one Wednesday night prayer meeting using Instagram Live that only one person watched, my friend Zeeler that I just mentioned. So yeah, now that Instagram has been updated, Instagram Live, I may use it more often. In fact, I probably will. But that was just to say all of this leading up to the big event, which was me actually live streaming the youth service. So I ended up doing it on YouTube because it was easy to use. You don't need an account, and it saves replays. So that was the main reason. I live streamed it on my personal YouTube account, and I'm still doing that, which is weird because I have a lot of private videos on there, and not private like you can't watch in private, as in family and stuff and gaming. But yeah, I've been using my own personal YouTube account. I didn't make a separate one just for the church. I had no idea what I was doing. I was stumbling. If you look at the top corner, you can actually see the little URL of the little address bar for the browser because I forgot to hide that. But yeah, using an ironing board to prop up my laptop because I didn't have this camera back then. I propped it up. I put a lamp, and I just went for it. And well, it wasn't the best stream. It was decent, and I thank the Lord that I was able to pull through. You can still watch it if you want. I followed the next month with the April uh, service, this time making sure I had the little chat in the corner. I also did it for May, but I couldn't find a screenshot of me in May. So here's another one of me in June, which was just a few short days ago. So yeah, what have I learned? Well, I guess I skipped ahead. Proverbs 19:21. There are many plans in a man's heart, nevertheless, the Lord's counsel that will stand. So what did I learn? I learned that we can make all the plans that we want, but in the end, the Lord is the one who has His say. And I knew that I wanted change this year. This is not what I was expecting. I don't think this is not what anyone was expecting. And for the record, I don't even know if this is necessarily reaching the youth. If you ever worked with youth at a church or literally anywhere else, as you're talking to them and giving them nuggets of wisdom of any kind, here's usually the reaction that you get from them. It's usually like dead in the eyes. Even if they love what they're hearing, they don't usually reflect it in their eyes, and oftentimes they're confused like, did I get through to them? I don't know. So it seems to be the same with the comment section. Like, am I reaching them? I don't know. Guys, let me, if you guys are watching, let me know. Because I can use that information to better plan in the future. But that involves you actually telling me. So anyway, this has been just sort of a funny story time. And like I said, this isn't so much of a preaching. But as the saying goes, when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Life gave us a pandemic. And many of us, a lot of us, took this as a learning opportunity to move stuff online. Never in my wildest dreams that I thought I was gonna buy a capture card and be able to capture gaming footage. I always thought that was such a luxury, like that's for rich people. I can't afford that. Well, I afforded it, and I got a whole. I have a setup now that I can use for many different things. I have a platform, which is weird. That wasn't the plan, so I have it now. The question now is for the second half of 2020, how am I gonna use it? How am I going to use it to reach the young people? How am I going to use it to praise the Lord? And for personal use, I'll be honest, I also use these things for personal use. I don't want to make it sound like I'm only using this equipment for the Lord. Yes, I have a lot of gaming content on here, and I'm sure I will make non-gaming content that's also non-religious. But yeah, this has been a weird year. And so as we move forward, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm curious to find out what we end up doing this year since again all the plans that we had made, the bike ride, the historic tour of the city, the cooking class, the working out together, all of that, it's been canceled. And even if we could do it through some loophole, it really isn't the smartest thing to be doing. Many states, and I don't want to get political, but many states have sort of ignored these, you know, social distancing and mask wearing, and the end result hasn't been pretty. Again, I don't want to sound political. I don't want to be. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying, Connecticut is a state that was very strict, and our numbers are going down beautifully. And so, with that said, what does the future hold for us? I don't know. Will we get to use the church before the end of the year? Probably not, at least not for youth service. I don't think I will be doing youth services inside the church. I don't know what I'm going to be doing. This was a curveball that nobody expected. I didn't expect it. But this has been the story time of the first half of youth ministry in 2020. I hope this helped you out. Maybe you guys had a similar experience. If so, share me. And yeah, God bless. And I'll probably make a follow up to this in December. All right. Thank you for watching, everybody. Bye. Wait, did it hit stop? It did not.